us all together. Lord, we gather in your name as children of a sovereign God. Forever we proclaim, to God be all glory.
Good afternoon. How you doing? It is Saturday, July 26, 2025. Welcome to episode 392 of The Thinking Theologian as we continue our journey through the scriptures. So today, we're going to start and end a book. So Song of Songs, chapter 1 through 8, read the whole book today. The title of today is Build Up the One You Love, the focal scriptures in Song of Songs, chapter 4, verse 7. And this is what it says. You are absolutely beautiful, my darling. There is no imperfection in you. And so we all like to be complimented and built up, especially by those we care about. However, far too often we are critical of those we know best for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's because we want them to do better than us, than we are in our own lives. Than we are in our own lives. And so we're looking out for them and what's best for them. Other times we know their faults more intimately and it causes us pain, so we want to fix the problem. However, if we would build them up and look at what they do well, it would make more of an impact than our complaints. Because you complain about something, but most people aren't going to change over all of the complaints. And when you're being negative and super negative all the time, it's an issue. Now, in today's reading, we see the love that the two people have for one another in the book of Song of Songs. They absolutely are enamored of one another. They constantly build each other up and discuss the positives. They talk about beauty and awe. They are enamored in the love. They desire to express themselves in ways that are God-honoring and people-honoring. Positivity overshadows negativity in their relationship. And so, overall, I'm a positive person for the most part. I do see the negative, and I do kind of try to plan ahead for what's coming and all stuff like that. But overall, I'm a pretty much positive person for the most part, especially when it comes to leadership style and different areas. I like to try to build people up and kind of move and get there. And so that's kind of where I am. I'm more positive than the negative. I don't like people who tear people down, are always negative, always complaining about things, and always bringing people to the office and complaining about stuff. That's just poor leadership, in my opinion, because you got to start with the positive. Everybody has a positive thing you can build on and build them up. So overall, I'm a more positive person. I rarely complain about others and almost never make personal, hurtful comments. Not saying I never have, because I have. There have been times, and usually it's because I'm not paying attention and I'm trying to be helpful and I say something that's really hurtful and I don't realize it. That is one of the weaknesses I have in that relationship with people, is that I think I'm trying to be positive and it comes across really negative. And so I'm still working on that in my 40s. But I don't try to purposely go after people and try to destroy people. I try to, if I see an issue, I'm like, hey, we really need to work on this. We need to get there. My intent is to be positive, and every time it doesn't always come across that way. And so that's a weakness that I have that I'm still trying to work on. However, on the flip side, I also don't praise a lot either. So even though I'm not overly negative, I also don't go out of my way to praise and to say, hey, this is explicitly what you're doing well and what's going on. Sometimes I do, but it's not always the best thought process in me. And that's also another area I have to work on, because I think it, I just don't say it. And so this is true in my personal relationships and with others. I have the mindset that if I'm not saying anything negative, then you should know that everything is good. So the way I look at it, if I'm not, hey, like if I'm not coming to you saying, hey, I have an issue with this, or I'm creating this, that everything is wonderful. But not everybody works that way, and I should know that. And so that's something I'm trying to work on, being more positive on what's going on, especially for those I'm closest to, because I just assume they know what I'm thinking, which isn't the case. You've been married long enough, you know that they don't know what you're thinking, and you need to say what you're thinking on your mind, and especially with our kids, they need to know. Then I'm reminded that people need to be built up, and they do. And if we don't build people up, it causes a big problem. be built up and not left to think of what they are doing is good and right. They just need to be told, hey, what you're doing is good and right. Don't let them think and wonder about it. They need to be told. So how do I know this? Because I like to be encouraged in my life. And so, and I don't like people go overboard with it, but if I do something well, like, hey, tell me, like, hey, Alan, you did this well. I appreciate this. A person who's always coming in negative and always coming doing that is just a turnoff. I don't really want to talk to them. And sometimes I do the same thing. And so I need to understand if I feel that way, other people feel that way. So that challenge I have for you and myself today is simple, but also difficult. Take time in your life to build up the ones you love, especially the ones you love. Married couples should build one another up more than we tear each other down. And it's easy to get on to your spouse because you know all their weaknesses, you know all their faults. It's easy to get onto them, but we need to build each other up more than we tear each other down. Stop the complaining and the accusations. You don't do this, or you never do that, or why don't you do this, or whatever it is, it needs to be corrected. Now focus on the qualities that make the other person valuable, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. The world and life have so much negativity already. What we need to do is show others that they matter in our lives, that we see them for how God created them and that they have value. So how would your relationships change if you stopped the complaining and the comments and just built them up for a week? I can almost guarantee that the relationship will become healthier and happier. Love and encourage in your relationships, especially with your spouse. Like we have here, these couples in love with each other. They're always speaking the positive. Doesn't mean they never had a hard conversation, but they're speaking the positive, building each other up. They know what each other thinks and how they think about each other. Love and encourage the people you work with and lead. So if you're always bringing somebody in and complaining about everything that's going on, it's an issue. It will change the dynamics for the better. And so build them up instead of always complaining. Even if you're annoyed with them, bring them in and say, hey, you're doing all these things really well, and build them up instead of trying to tear them down in conversations of what's happening, what's going on. There was a person that I worked with that, unbeknownst to me, that whenever people, it kind of came out later, that whenever people would compliment my boss, and the person that was in leadership over things I was doing, for whatever reason, whenever they would see me next, they would purposely try to tear me down. And I didn't realize that until later, because I was having a conversation with somebody and going like, I don't know why this person's always complaining about everything I do. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And the person looked at me really funny and said, what do you mean? They said, I just complimented you the other day in front of this person. And, that I thought it was weird they didn't have a response. But I found out later on that numerous times that happened. And every time that happened, this person would come back and try to tear me down. And they never said, hey, so-and-so complimented you, or so-and-so sees what you're doing, and so-and-so sees this, and they're really impressed, or whatever was said. It was always a tear down what's going on. And so it was like, don't be that type of person. So even if you get compliments for somebody else that is said to you, you take that information and you tell that to the person that matters, because it will build them up. It will help build things up, because relationships start with trust, and trust is needed for relationships to go well. And this one relationship, I had zero trust for this person for numerous reasons. And this incident made it even more apparent why I didn't need to trust them, because they were always trying to tear me down with everything that was going on, even though everything else was extremely positive and things were going extremely well. They were always finding the negative in everything and what was happening. And so don't be like that. Build the ones up you care about. So not just in your leadership role, but especially in your personal relationships with your spouse and with your children. Be more positive than you are negative. So thank you for being with us today. Tomorrow we'll start the book of Isaiah. We'll be in chapters 1 through 4. Have a good day, and I will see you.